As Obie ventured deeper into the ancient woods, a profound voice suddenly resonated around him. "Obie, my son, do not be afraid." It echoed with a timeless cadence. "I have been with you since before you were born." Startled by the unexpected presence, yet undeniably encouraged, Obie felt an extraordinary surge of courage flow through his veins. With a mere gesture from the unseen voice, an incredible power coursed through his entire being. His muscles expanded with newfound strength, and his senses sharpened to an almost supernatural degree. "Go forth, Obie, and conquer the lion," the voice urged, its command resonating with purpose. Filled with this immense newfound strength, Obie continued his arduous journey through the forest. Each of his steps was bold and resolute, his eyes now fixed intently on the formidable task that lay ahead. As the sun began its descent, casting long, encroaching shadows, he finally caught sight of the majestic lion. The moment the lion spotted Obie, it unleashed a thunderous roar that ripped through the quiet forest, its eyes blazing with an untamed fury. Yet Obie stood his ground, unperturbed and remarkably brave. With a steady, unwavering hand, he raised his spear, fully prepared to face the formidable beast. The lion lunged at Obie, its formidable claws slashing menacingly through the air, but Obie moved with the speed of lightning, effortlessly dodging the savage attacks and striking back with precise, calculated blows. With each impactful strike, he felt the guiding power of the voice, empowering him with renewed strength and unwavering courage. Hours seemed to stretch into an eternity as Obie and the lion battled fiercely beneath the shadowy, intertwined canopy of the forest. The raw sounds of their struggle reverberated ominously through the ancient trees. Despite the lion's ferocious onslaught, Obie steadfastly refused to yield. He fought with every fiber of his being, fueled by an unyielding determination and an intuitive knowledge of his purpose. Finally, with one decisive, mighty blow, Obie struck the magnificent lion down. The beast let out a final, defeated roar, a sound of profound surrender, before collapsing heavily to the ground. Obie stood victorious, his chest heaving with sheer exhaustion, yet his spirit soared with the exhilaration of triumph. After defeating the lion, Obie carefully took certain parts of its body, the heart, the nails, and the eyes. When Obie arrived home, he went straight to his room. Amandi and Rafu, his parents, quickly followed him, their faces etched with concern as they asked where he had been. Obie recounted everything that had transpired in the forest. They were undeniably surprised that he had gone against their warnings, venturing out behind their backs. However, their surprise was quickly overshadowed by immense joy and pride that their brave son had finally defeated the very lion that had cast such a long shadow of fear over the villagers. Obie and his parents quickly got dressed and headed straight to the king's palace to share the momentous good news. Before they left, Obie paused and asked his parents about his brother, Chuka. But they simply replied that Chuka had already left home, and they had no idea where he had gone. As they arrived at the king's palace, Obie's father explained their purpose for being there. After hearing the extraordinary tale, the king was overjoyed, declaring that he could not possibly keep such wonderful news to himself. He immediately called for all the villagers to gather and then personally delivered the latest news to them. They were utterly shocked that a young man like Obie could defeat such a mighty lion without any assistance whatsoever. While the villagers were still celebrating the incredible feat, Chuka suddenly appeared from seemingly nowhere. "My king, Your Majesty, do not believe what my brother and parents have told you, he loudly proclaimed. I killed the lion. He is lying. The king and the assembled villagers were left utterly confused, unsure of who to believe amidst the conflicting claims. The king then instructed Chuka to lead the guards to where the lion was. Upon their arrival at the site, they immediately noticed that some parts of the lion were missing. Unbeknownst to Chuka, Obie had already revealed to both the king and the villagers that he had taken certain parts from the beast. The moment the guards laid eyes on the lion, they instantly recognized Chuka's deception. He was forcibly dragged back to the palace, desperately pleading for mercy. The king, now fully convinced of the truth, publicly praised Obie for his remarkable bravery and unwavering honesty. The villagers erupted in cheers for Obie, their hearts overflowing with gratitude for his courage in protecting their beloved village. True to his word, the king then announced that Obie would be appointed as his second-in-command, and as a further token of his appreciation, asked him to choose one of his 5 daughters as his bride. Obie, without hesitation, chose the youngest daughter, Princess Chica. This decision visibly angered the eldest daughter, Princess Ada. She had long harbored unspoken feelings for Obie, but had never found the opportunity to express them. In a sudden fit of overwhelming jealousy, she stormed out of the palace, leaving everyone present in stunned surprise. The king, though momentarily taken aback by his daughter's dramatic departure, quickly urged the villagers to refocus on the true reason for their gathering. He then set a definitive date for Obie's coronation, which would also serve as his wedding day to the princess. Obie and his parents expressed their profound gratitude to the king for his immense generosity. However, just as they were preparing to depart, the king issued a stern command, ordering his guards to take Chuka to the backyard for punishment due to his deceitful lies against his own brother. Despite Obie and his parents' heartfelt pleas for mercy, the king remained firm, insisting that Chuka must be taught a severe lesson. Heartbroken, Obie watched in agony as his brother was mercilessly flogged by the palace guards. The raw pain etched in Chuka's eyes only fueled his simmering hatred for his brother, a resentment that grew deeper with each brutal lash. Feeling a complex mix of emotions, Obie returned home with his parents, deeply troubled by the unsettling turn of events. He knew that despite his newfound status and the promise of happiness, a palpable unrest still lingered within his family. When Chuka finally arrived home, he was seething with uncontrollable fury directed squarely at Obie. He stormed directly towards his brother and exclaimed, his voice thick with venomous anger, "How dare you walk away when the king's guards were mistreating me? Why didn't you do something, or is it because of the little position he promised you?" Obie, utterly bewildered, responded, "What are you even talking about? Didn't you hear when we were begging the king, or are you deaf?" Chuka's anger only intensified at this retort. "How dare you talk back at me, Obie?" he thundered. "Remember, I am your elder brother, and you dare not speak to me in such a manner." His tone grew menacing as he added, "Let's see how you will become the second-in-command." Puzzled by the veiled threat, Obie asked, "What do you mean by that?" "Let's wait and see," Chuka replied ominously, before slamming the door shut with a resounding thud, leaving Obie feeling profoundly troubled and deeply unsure. The following day, Obie was utterly shocked to discover Princess Ada inside his house. "What are you doing here?" he asked, his voice laced with surprise. Princess Ada offered an apology for her abrupt departure from the palace the previous day. "I'm sorry for leaving like that," she said softly, her gaze downcast. She then confessed that she had felt an intense surge of jealousy when Obie had chosen her younger sister over her. "You never told me you liked me," she uttered sadly, a hint of accusation in her tone. Obie gently shook his head. "I don't have feelings for you, Ada. I like your sister," he explained kindly, but firmly. Feeling utterly rejected, Princess Ada suddenly began screaming for help, her voice piercing. "Help! Help! Obie wants to harm me!" she shrieked, fear contorting her features. Chuka, hearing her desperate cries, immediately rushed out, grabbing Obie by his trousers. Instead of attempting to calm the chaotic situation, Chuka himself began shouting loudly, calling the villagers. Before Obie even realized what was happening, he was surrounded, brutally beaten, and then dragged to the palace. Amandi and Rafu, his parents, desperately begged for mercy, but their pleas fell on deaf ears. When the king demanded to know what had transpired, Princess Ada, with a chilling calmness, falsely accused Obie of attempting to harm her. The king, enraged and profoundly disappointed, immediately ordered Obie to be locked away in the palace cell. Obie tried to explain to protest his innocence, but nobody would listen. Feeling utterly hopeless, Chuka spoke up, his voice dripping with feigned sorrow. "I told you, Your Majesty, that the little boy is not who you think he is. I was the one who killed that lion, but you people didn't believe me," he said, shaking his head sadly. As night fell, Obie sat alone in his cold cell, feeling a profound sense of betrayal and a chilling fear about what fate awaited him. Obie remained imprisoned in the palace cell, despite his parents' continuous heartfelt pleas. The king remained unmoved, resolute in his vow to keep Obie confined for 6 long months. The day of the coronation eventually arrived, and to everyone's utter surprise, Chuka was crowned the new second in command. He stood tall, a solemn expression fixed on his face, seemingly ready to serve the king with unwavering devotion. In a shocking twist of fate, Chuka then chose Princess Ada as his bride. The villagers gasped in astonishment at this utterly unexpected turn of events. Chuka made a solemn promise to both the king and the kingdom. "I vow to serve you with everything within me," he declared, his voice echoing powerfully through the courtyard. As Chuka and Princess Ada stood together, poised to embark on their new journey, Obie watched from the confines of his cell, a heavy mixture of sadness and disbelief swirling within him at the cruel irony of the situation. 2 months had passed since the king had bestowed half of his village upon Chuka. However, to the growing dismay of the villagers, Chuka's behavior took an alarming, dark turn. He began ruthlessly seizing people's land and inflicting severe punishments on anyone who dared to question his authority. If someone dared to speak up, he would cruelly take their wives and force their husbands into slavery. The entire village was plunged into a state of utter confusion, and widespread whispers of discontent filled the air. Word of Chuka's increasingly tyrannical behavior eventually reached the king's ears, and he immediately summoned Chuka to the palace to address the grave accusations. When confronted, Chuka boldly declared that he could not be controlled, asserting that the land was now rightfully his, a statement that profoundly shocked the king. "You dare speak to me like this?" the king thundered in sheer disbelief. "I raised you up, and I can bring you down." But Chuka, feeling emboldened by his newfound authority, stood defiantly before the king. "You have no authority over me," he stated boldly. "You can't order me around like a child. I own this land now." With a heavy heart, The king finally realized the grave mistake he had made in placing such immense power in Chuka's hands. As Chuka stormed out of the palace in a fit of uncontrollable rage, the king sat in silent contemplation, consumed by profound regret. Realizing the magnitude of his error, the king immediately ordered Obie's release from his cell. As Obie stepped out into the glorious sunlight once more, the king humbly apologized for not heeding his earlier pleas. "I forgive you, my king," Obie replied graciously, a serene calmness in his voice. "I knew the truth would come to light eventually. Thank goodness you now see the true nature of my brother, Chuka." When Obie returned home, his parents were utterly astonished to see him. They had fully expected the king to keep him locked up for months. Amandi and Rafu were overjoyed to see him and immediately prepared a delicious meal to celebrate his unexpected return. After they had eaten, Obie recounted the harrowing tale of how Chuka had plotted to kill him while he was in prison. He shared how he had been miraculously saved by a mysterious voice that had warned him not to eat certain foods. Then, one day, a maid, overcome with guilt, begged him not to reveal a secret. She confessed that Chuka had paid her to poison his food. Obie's parents were utterly shocked by this horrifying revelation and immediately wanted to confront Chuka. But Obie calmly urged them to be patient, telling them that there was a time for everything. He insisted on caution, knowing that they needed to carefully plan their next steps before confronting Chuka. When Chuka returned home, he shared with his wife, Princess Ada, the king's angry words and his father's promise to reclaim everything he had given to them. "My father is always so full of himself. I dislike him passionately," Princess Ada remarked, her voice dripping with disdain. "Let's bring him down, my dear husband," she continued, her eyes gleaming. Chuka was taken by surprise. "What do you mean? My lovely wife?" "I don't quite understand," he replied, puzzled. "You see," Princess Ada explained, "I've always desired to be king, but according to our tradition, a woman can never be king. So I want you, my husband, to become the king of this great kingdom. Then we can have ultimate power and do as we please." Chuka's eyes widened. "But my wife, how can we achieve that? Your father, the king, is still alive. We can't possibly kill him, can we?" he asked, surprised by her boldness. "That's what I've been trying to tell you. Let's get rid of that old man," Princess Ada declared, a sinister glint in her eyes. "You see why I married you? We think alike," Chuka said with a chilling, knowing laugh as they plotted their evil plans together. Unbeknownst to Chuka and Princess Ada, one of their maids overheard their entire conversation. Shocked and terrified by what she had heard, she hurried to the king's palace and narrated everything to him. The king was utterly stunned by the maid's revelation. He simply couldn't believe that his own daughter would plot to get rid of him. The king then summoned Obie and recounted the maid's disturbing report to him. "I'm not surprised, my king. I know my brother Chuka. He will do anything to gain power," Obie remarked, a weary resignation in his voice. "What truly shocks me is your daughter, the princess. How could she even consider harming her own father, who has done nothing wrong to her?" The king, fully aware of how powerful Chuka's warriors were, was deeply troubled by the grave threat. Sensing the king's distress, Obie reassured him, promising that Chuka's formidable warriors would be no match for him. With unwavering confidence, Obie assured the king that he would defeat them all. That night, as Obie lay awake, the familiar, mysterious voice spoke to him once more, This time it instructed him to stretch out his hand. To his amazement, a piece of native chalk appeared in his palm. The voice then directed Obie to ensure that the chalk was used to cook for Chuka's warriors. If they consumed the food prepared with the chalk, they would be stripped of their powers. Determined to protect the king and their kingdom, Obie resolved to carry out the instructions given to him by the mysterious voice. The very next day, Obie went in search of Chuka's maid, the brave woman who had revealed their evil plans to the king. Handing her the special native chalk, Obie carefully explained what the mysterious voice had instructed him to do. With unwavering determination in his heart, he asked the maid to help him by secretly adding the chalk to the warrior's food. When she returned to Chuka's house, the maid quietly slipped into the kitchen. Luckily, the main chef had just left for a moment, leaving the kitchen unguarded. Acting swiftly, the maid poured the chalk into the large pot of food, making sure it mixed in completely and dissolved without a trace. As the delicious aroma of the meal filled the air, Chuka's warriors eagerly sat down to eat, their appetites keen. Little did they know, the chalk hidden within their food held a powerful, secret purpose. Shortly after eating, the effects of the chalk began to take hold. One by one, the warriors started to feel an overwhelming drowsiness, and soon they fell into a deep, profound sleep. They were completely defenseless, utterly vulnerable to any danger that might come their way. Under the cover of darkness, Obie and the king's loyal warriors launched a decisive surprise attack on Chuka's unsuspecting camp. Despite putting up a brief, disoriented fight, Chuka's drugged warriors were no match for Obie's well-prepared and vigilant army. With victory decisively on their side, Chuka and Princess Ada were captured and immediately brought before the king to face the dire consequences of their treacherous actions. Standing humbled before the throne, they finally realized that their days of deceit and manipulation were irrevocably over, and they would surely pay for their betrayal. In a solemn and unyielding decree, the king ordered that Chuka and Princess Ada be banished from the village forever, never to return. The crowd erupted in thunderous cheers as the wicked pair left the palace in utter disgrace, their heads bowed in defeat. With Chuka and Princess Ada gone, the king turned to Obie and formally bestowed upon him the honor of becoming the second in command, a position he had truly earned. The village was then thoughtfully divided into two parts, with Obie and his wife, Princess Chica, the very princess Obie had chosen before his unjust imprisonment, tasked with overseeing one part, ensuring its prosperity and peace. Filled with immense joy and profound gratitude, Obie and his parents celebrated alongside the jubilant villagers. They sang and danced, their voices echoing with pure elation, rejoicing in the newfound peace, stability, and justice that had finally been restored to their beloved village. This story teaches us that being honest, brave, and loyal is always inherently better than being deceitful and treacherous.